I should have seen the signs. The late-night work calls, the sudden change in perfume, the way she started locking her phone like it contained state secrets. But I was blind. Too trusting. Too stupid. Until tonight. I had just walked into our bedroom exhausted after another long day when I heard the faint ping of her phone. Nothing unusual except it wasn't on her nightstand. It was in the bathroom. And she was in the shower. Instinct told me to ignore it. Logic told me I was overthinking. But something deeper, something primal, urged me to check. The screen lit up again. Can't stop thinking about last night. Your husband's still clueless. I swear, my heart stopped. The name on the screen? Jason. A guy I had never heard of. But the text made it clear this wasn't just a friend. My hands shook as I swiped up, my thumb hovering over the message thread. Then, like ripping off a bandage, I opened it. And that's when my world collapsed. Photos. Videos. Words so explicit they made my stomach turn. She wasn't just cheating. She was bragging about it. Laughing at me behind my back. Talking about me like I was some joke while she was out playing house with another man. The shower turned off. I barely had time to lock the phone and place it back before she stepped out, towel wrapped around her body, looking at me with that same smug smile I once thought was charming. Hey, babe, she cooed, completely unaware that I now knew what a lying, backstabbing scoundrel she was. I forced a smile. Hey, I wasn't going to confront her yet. No, I needed a plan. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft breathing of the woman who had just ripped my heart out and stomped all over it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages. The videos. The smug way she had written, "My husband is so clueless, I could do this right under his nose." She had no idea I wasn't clueless anymore. And that gave me the upper hand. By morning, I had a plan. Step 1. Gather more evidence. I wasn't going to confront her empty-handed. No, I wanted to corner her like the lying, cheating scoundrel she was. If she thought she could gaslight me out of this, she had another thing coming. So, while she was in the shower, I picked up her phone again. This time, I sent every message, every photo, every video to my own phone. Evidence. Cold, hard proof. But what I saw made my blood run cold. This wasn't just one affair. There were at least 3 different men. Jason was just the latest. The most recent toy in her collection. That idiot actually thinks I'm at a girls' trip this weekend. You free to meet up? She had sent to someone named Chris just a week ago. I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palm. She had played me for a fool for who knows how long. Step 2. Act normal. Keep her guessing. If I let my rage show too soon, she'd find a way to twist things. That was how she operated, turning the tables, playing the victim, making me the paranoid or controlling husband. So I forced myself to smile over breakfast. Got a long day today? I asked, casually sipping my coffee. She barely looked up from her phone. Probably texting Jason or Chris or whatever other loser was lined up next. Yeah, super busy. Meetings all day, she lied effortlessly, like breathing. I stared at her, watching the way she avoided eye contact. A week ago, I would have believed her. But now? Now I knew better. And then she had the audacity to lean over and kiss my cheek. Love you, babe. I almost laughed. She was disgusting. Instead, I played my part. Love you too. She left for work at 9 a.m. By 9:30, I was following her. Step 3. Catch her red-handed. I had never done something like this before, but adrenaline made me bold. I tailed her car from a safe distance, my heart pounding. She wasn't heading to her office. I already knew that. 15 minutes later, she pulled into a hotel parking lot. The kind of place people go when they don't want to be seen. I gripped the steering wheel so hard it nearly snapped. She stepped out of the car, dressed in that tight little skirt I used to love, and checked her reflection in the window. Then, with a quick glance around, she strutted inside like she owned the place. And less than a minute later, Jason walked in after her. That was it. That was my breaking point. Step 4. The confrontation. I could have stormed in right then and there, but that was too easy. No, I wanted her to feel what I felt. I parked and waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Finally, at noon, she emerged. Hair a little messy, makeup slightly smudged, wearing the same smug expression I had seen in those texts. Jason kissed her cheek before walking off like it was just another day. Oh, I was about to make it a day neither of them would ever forget. I stepped out of my car. Hey, babe. Her body stiffened. Her eyes went wide with panic for just a second before she quickly masked it with a fake smile. Honey, what are you doing here? She said, forcing a laugh. I was just having lunch with a coworker. She was so damn good at lying. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Oh, really? Which coworker? Jason? The color drained from her face. Who? She tried to play dumb. Wrong move. I pulled out my phone, opened the messages, and held it up in front of her. Try again, I said coldly. Her lips parted, her eyes darting left and right like a rat looking for an escape. Look, baby, it's not what you think. Not what I think? I barked out a bitter laugh. Really? Because it looks a whole lot like my wife just spent her lunch break screwing another guy in a hotel room. She scoffed, crossing her arms. Oh, so now you're spying on me? Jesus, you're pathetic. I blinked. She was actually trying to make me the villain. Spying? I echoed. Oh no, sweetheart, you made this too easy. Your phone practically handed me everything. Now she looked nervous. Good. Fine, she finally snapped. You want to know the truth? Yeah, I've been seeing Jason. And Chris. And maybe a couple of others. But can you blame me? She sneered. You haven't exactly been husband of the year. I laughed. A real, deep laugh. The audacity. The sheer arrogance. You know what? I said, stepping closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. I hope Jason was worth it. Because you're about to lose everything. She blinked. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I smirked. You'll find out soon enough. Then I walked away, leaving her standing there, speechless for once in her miserable, lying life. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't drive home. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. My entire marriage had been a joke, a lie carefully crafted by the woman I had once loved. Every kiss, every whispered, I love you, every damn anniversary, just empty words from a woman who had been treating me like a fool for years. But not anymore. I wasn't going to be the sad, heartbroken husband begging for an explanation. No, I was going to be the man who made her regret ever thinking she could get away with this. I parked in a quiet lot and started making calls. I didn't waste time. By the time I finished explaining everything, the lawyer, Mark, a no-nonsense guy with a reputation for destroying cheaters in court, was already setting up a strategy. You've got solid evidence, he said after I forwarded him all the messages and photos. That's going to help. Now, do you own the house? Yeah. Bought it before we were married. Good. She has no legal right to it. Do you have joint accounts? I clenched my jaw. Unfortunately. Drain them. Now. Take your money and move it to a separate account before she tries to pull the same move. I hadn't even considered that. My wife, the liar, cheater, and manipulator, would have no problem wiping out our savings if she knew I was coming for her. Do it today, Mark continued. And one more thing, don't let her know you've seen a lawyer yet. Keep playing dumb. The dumber she thinks you are, the easier this will be. I smirked. I can do that. I wasn't just going to leave her. I wanted to humiliate her. She had spent years lying to me, talking about me behind my back, thinking she was untouchable. That ends now. First, I sent Jason a message from her phone. I need to see you tonight. Come over at 7. We need to talk. It's important. Then I went to work setting the scene. By the time I got home, she was already there, pretending like nothing had happened. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, looking up when I walked in. Hey, babe, she said, all fake sweetness. How was your day? I smiled. Good. Just work stuff. She had no idea what was coming. I kissed her on the cheek, one last time, and headed upstairs to our bedroom, the same bed she had disrespected with other men. It took everything in me not to lose it right then and there. But I held it together. For the grand finale. At 6:50 p.m. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a beer, when she came downstairs dressed way too nice for a night in. Tight dress. Full face of makeup. The whole act. Going somewhere? I asked casually. She hesitated just for a second before flashing me that rehearsed, manipulative smile. Yeah. Ashley invited me out for drinks. Girls' night. I almost laughed in her face. Instead, I leaned back, watching her. Oh, cool. Have fun. Her smile widened, thinking she had once again pulled the wool over my eyes. She grabbed her purse and practically skipped out the door. What she didn't know was that Jason was on his way to our house, expecting to see her. At 7:10 p.m., Jason knocked on the door. I took my time opening it, letting him wait in the cold. When I finally pulled it open, the smug bastard had the audacity to smirk. Hey man, he said, like we were friends. Is Sarah here? I stared at him, letting the silence drag until he shifted uncomfortably. Then I grinned. Nope. She's at a girls' night. Jason frowned, confused. What? I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and showed him the messages. His face drained of color. Yeah, I said, shaking my head. She's been playing both of us. Actually, more than just us. I thought you should know. Jason's mouth opened and closed, struggling to process what he was looking at. This has to be a joke, he mumbled. I shrugged. Check your phone. She's probably lying to you right now, too. Jason yanked his phone out, typing furiously. His face twisted with rage as he read whatever bullsh asterisk tea she was feeding him. That lying, he didn't even finish his sentence before storming off. I stepped back inside, shutting the door with a satisfying click. Sarah was about to walk into a disaster of her own making. At 11:30 p.m., she stumbled back into the house, drunk and giggling. Hey, babe, she slurred, kicking off her heels. You awake? I was sitting on the couch, waiting. Oh yeah, I'm awake. She didn't even notice the ice in my tone. She just flopped onto the couch beside me, grinning. You won't believe the night I had, she sighed. Oh, I believe it, I said, smirking. How was Jason? Her entire body went rigid. I leaned in, my voice soft but deadly. Yeah. He stopped by tonight. She turned slowly, her face pale. What? I tossed my phone onto her lap. Check the messages. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the texts. Then, as if she could somehow manipulate her way out of this, she laughed nervously. This isn't what it looks like, she whispered. I stood up, towering over her. Oh no, Sarah. It's exactly what it looks like. I grabbed my jacket, heading for the door. Where are you going? She cried, panic creeping into her voice. I didn't even look back. To celebrate my new single life. And with that, I walked out. Sarah always thought she was the smartest person in the room. She believed she could twist reality, lie straight to my face, and walk away without consequence. But tonight, her little world was crashing down, and I had a front row seat to the destruction. The second I stepped outside, my phone started blowing up. Calls. Messages. One after another. Sarah was panicking. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove. Nowhere in particular, just far enough to clear my head. The streets were empty, the city lights blurring past as I replayed everything in my mind. Her lies. Her arrogance. The sheer audacity of her betrayal. And then a thought hit me. She still had no idea about the divorce. The realization sent a rush of satisfaction through me. She thought this was just another fight. A temporary problem she could cry her way out of. But no. This time I wasn't falling for it. This time it was her turn to lose everything. I finally drove back home at nearly 2 a.m. The second I stepped inside, I saw her sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes red and puffy. She jumped up the moment she saw me. Where the hell have you been? I tossed my keys on the counter. Out. She scoffed, crossing her arms. Out? That's it? You just disappear for hours after pulling that little stunt with Jason? I raised an eyebrow. My stunt. She threw up her hands. Oh, come on. Do you think that was funny? Setting me up like that? Inviting him over? I leaned against the counter, watching her unravel. I thought you'd enjoy seeing one of your boyfriends twice in one day. Her nostrils flared. God, you're such a child. I laughed, shaking my head. And you're a liar. She froze for a second, then rolled her eyes like she was exhausted by all this. Like I was the one making a big deal out of nothing. Look, she said, softening her tone. I made a mistake, okay? I got caught up in something stupid and Save it, I cut her off. I'm done listening to your excuses. Her face twitched. The fake sweetness vanished, replaced by something colder. So what? You're just gonna hate me forever. I smirked. Nah. I'm just gonna move on. She stared at me, blinking. Wait, what does that mean? I walked past her, heading upstairs. You'll find out soon enough. The next morning, I woke up to find Sarah already awake, sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee, staring at her phone. She looked up when she saw me. Are we gonna talk about this? I poured myself some coffee, not even looking at her. No need. She let out a humorless laugh. So that's it? You just shut me out. I finally turned to her, leaning against the counter. What exactly do you want me to say, Sarah? That I forgive you? That we can work this out? Her lips parted, and for a brief second, she actually looked nervous. Good. I don't want to throw everything away over one mistake, she said, voice softer now. I know I screwed up, but you and we have history. That has to count for something. I sipped my coffee. Funny. That didn't seem to matter when you were screwing Jason in a hotel room. Her eyes darkened. I already said I was sorry. No, you got caught and now you're scrambling, I corrected. There's a difference. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. So what, you're just gonna keep punishing me? I laughed. Punishing you? Oh, sweetheart, you haven't even felt consequences yet. Her jaw clenched. Jesus Christ, you are such a dramatic little... She stopped herself. Too late. I grinned. Say it. Go on. She shook her head. I don't even know why I'm trying with you. Now we were getting somewhere. Because you're scared, I said simply. She looked up sharply, eyes flashing. You know you're about to lose everything and it's finally sinking in. She scoffed. Lose everything? Oh, please. I'll be fine without you. I smirked. Not after I empty the joint account. Her entire body went rigid. Excuse me. I casually pulled out my phone, tapped the banking app, and turned the screen toward her. Balance, $2.13. Sarah shot up from her chair. You can't do that. I shrugged. Actually, I can. My lawyer made sure of it. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since this entire mess started, she looked truly, genuinely panicked. You got a lawyer? She whispered. Days ago. She shook her head, her breathing uneven. You wouldn't. Oh, I would, I cut in. And I did. She grabbed the back of the chair like she needed to steady herself. You're divorcing me? I grinned. Now you're catching on. Her lips trembled. But what about us? There's no us, Sarah. Not anymore. She sucked in a shaky breath. For a moment, she looked almost devastated. Then, just as quickly, her expression hardened. Fine, she spat. You want to throw away our marriage? Go ahead. But you are not kicking me out of this house. I chuckled. Yeah. About that. I reached into my pocket, pulled out an envelope, and tossed it onto the table. She hesitated, then picked it up. As soon as she saw what it was, her face drained of color. An eviction notice. You. She looked up, her voice shaking with rage. You bastard. Legally, the house is mine, I said, crossing my arms. And since you don't own anything in this marriage, you're leaving. She tore the envelope in half, breathing hard. You can't do this to me. I stepped closer, dropping my voice. I didn't do this, Sarah. You did. She opened her mouth to scream something, but I was already walking away, leaving her standing there with nothing. Nothing but the consequences she never thought she'd have to face. And I had never felt better. Sarah didn't take the news well. At first, she just stood there, frozen, gripping the torn eviction notice in her trembling hands. I could almost see her mind racing, trying to find a way out. Some loophole, some trick, some lie to get herself back in control. But there was nothing left for her to manipulate. You think you've won? She finally spat, her voice shaking. You think you can just throw me out like garbage? I leaned against the counter, sipping my coffee. No, Sarah. I don't think, I know. Her eyes burned with rage. I gave you years of my life. I laughed. Oh, and I'm sure that was tough for you, huh? Sneaking around with Jason and God knows who else, spending my money, lying straight to my face, yeah, you definitely suffered. She slammed her fists on the table. You can't do this to me. I tilted my head. Really? Because I just did. Her nostrils flared as she tried to contain her fury. Then, suddenly, her expression shifted. The anger vanished. Her lips quivered. Her shoulders slumped. And then came the tears. The fake tears. Please, she whispered, stepping closer. We can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can work on us. I'll do whatever it takes. I stared at her, unimpressed. You are unbelievable. She reached out to touch my arm. I pulled away. She blinked, her lower lip trembling. You won't even give me a chance? I sighed, rubbing my temple. Sarah, I gave you a marriage. I gave you everything. And you threw it away like it meant nothing. She shook her head violently. No. That's not true. I made a mistake, okay? But we can get through this. I let out a bitter chuckle. You call it a mistake. I call it who you are. Her face twisted into something ugly. You really hate me, don't you? I didn't answer. Because I didn't hate her. I just didn't care anymore. And that scared her more than anything. She clenched her fists. Fine. You want to be heartless? You want to throw me away like trash? She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Just remember. I know things about you too. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Like what? She smirked. Like how your boss would love to hear about that questionable business trip last year. Or how your work expenses don't always look so legitimate. I sighed. Ah. Blackmail. Classic. She folded her arms. Try to take everything from me and I'll ruin you. I smirked. Cute. But you really should have read the papers before tearing them up. Her expression flickered with uncertainty. I pulled out my phone and scrolled for a second before turning the screen toward her. A video played. Our security camera footage. And there she was, Sarah and Jason, tangled up on the couch. Clear as day. Her face went pale. What is this? I put the phone away. Evidence. She shook her head, backing away. You recorded me? Technically, the house did, I corrected. And guess what? That prenup you signed? It had an infidelity clause. Her mouth opened. No words came out. If you cheat, I continued, savoring every second of her panic, you walk away with nothing. No house. No car. No money. Sarah swayed slightly, gripping the table for support. You're lying, she whispered. I grinned. You want to bet? She looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw it, the full realization that she had lost. Her hands balled into fists. You bastard. I shrugged. Maybe. But at least I'm not a liar and a cheat. She lunged at me. For a second I thought she was going to slap me, but instead she snatched a glass from the counter and hurled it at the wall. It shattered, shards raining down onto the floor. You ruined my life, she shrieked. I chuckled. No, Sarah. You did that all by yourself. She grabbed her phone and stormed past me, heading upstairs. I didn't stop her. She had nothing left to fight with. No money. No leverage. No lies that could save her now. And the best part? I wasn't even done yet. 20 minutes later, I was sitting on the couch when Sarah came stomping back downstairs. A suitcase in one hand, her phone in the other. She threw a set of keys on the table. Fine, she hissed. I'll leave. I nodded. Good choice. She glared at me like she wanted to stab me in my sleep. You think you're so smart, don't you? I smirked. No, but I am smarter than you. Her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. I leaned back, completely relaxed. Nah, I really won't. She let out a frustrated scream, then stormed toward the door. But right as she grabbed the handle, her phone rang. She glanced down at the screen, and for the briefest second, her face changed. Panic. She hit decline. I raised an eyebrow. Who was that? She tightened her grip on the phone. None of your damn business. I grinned. Oh, this just got interesting. Another boyfriend? I asked casually. She didn't answer. Just clenched her jaw and turned toward the door. But I wasn't letting her off that easy. Hey, Sarah. She hesitated, hand on the doorknob. I smiled. You might want to answer next time. Looks like someone else is about to find out what kind of person you really are. She spun around. What the hell does that mean? I leaned forward. Let's just say. Jason isn't the only one who got a text. Her eyes widened. You. The phone rang again. And this time she froze. I chuckled. Better get that. She stared at the screen, breathing hard, her entire body shaking. Then, without another word, she bolted out the door. And just like that, Sarah was finally gone. But this wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. I shut the door behind Sarah, locking it with a sense of finality. The silence that followed was almost deafening. For the first time in years, I could finally breathe. But I wasn't done yet. I walked over to the couch and picked up my phone. The message I sent to Jason's wife, Emily, was still open on my screen. Just a simple text. You need to see this. Attached were the same security camera clips of Sarah and Jason going at it like a couple of reckless teenagers in my own damn house. The read receipt popped up. And then 3 dots. Emily was typing. A few seconds later, my phone vibrated. Emily, what the hell is this? Is this real? I smirked. Me, unfortunately, yeah. I thought you deserved to know. She didn't respond right away. I could imagine her sitting there, phone in hand, face paling as she processed the ultimate betrayal. Then another message. Emily, he's at home right now. I'm going to confront him. I leaned back, a satisfied sigh escaping my lips. Perfect. Sarah thought she could just walk away. Thought she could find some other sucker to manipulate. Thought she could keep up her lies. But now? Her world was about to burn. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the couch, flipping on the TV. Just as I was about to take a sip, bang, bang, bang. Loud, desperate knocking at the door. I sighed, already knowing who it was. I got up, taking my time before opening the door. And there she was, Sarah, wild-eyed, clutching her phone like it was the last thing keeping her alive. You piece of sh*t, she screamed, shoving the screen in my face. You told Emily? I glanced at the screen. Emily's messages were blowing up. Emily, you cheating son of a BTCH, get home now. Asterisk. Emily, we're done, Jason. Done. Emily, hope Sarah's worth it because you just lost everything. I smirked. Damn. Emily doesn't mess around, huh? Sarah lunged at me, shoving me backward. You ruined my life. I caught my balance and laughed. No, sweetheart. You did that all by yourself. She shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. You don't get it. Jason's wife, she's gonna take everything from him. He'll have nothing left. Oh, you mean the guy you were screwing behind my back? Wow, tragic. Her face contorted in rage. He was my way out. My safety net. And now he's just as screwed as you are. I finished for her. Sucks, huh? She screamed in frustration and kicked the doorframe. You're a monster. I grinned. Takes one to know one, darling. She exhaled sharply, her whole body trembling. You don't understand. I have nowhere to go. I leaned against the doorframe. Not my problem. She let out a humorless laugh. Oh, you think this is over? I crossed my arms. Sarah, you have nothing left to threaten me with. Her lips curled into a wicked smile. Oh, but I do. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. You think I was bad? She whispered. Wait until you see what happens next. And then, just like that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. I didn't know what she meant, but something in my gut told me. This wasn't over. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A text from my boss. Need to see you in my office. ASAP. My stomach dropped. I arrived at work, walking into his office to find him sitting behind his desk, hands folded, face unreadable. He gestured to a chair. Sit. I sat. He slid his phone across the desk. Care to explain? I picked it up. My blood ran cold. It was an anonymous email sent to my boss, HR, and several senior executives. The subject line? Urgent. Workplace misconduct report. The body of the email accused me of financial fraud, inappropriate behavior, and even harassment. Total bullshit *T. But well-crafted enough to cause damage. I clenched my jaw. Sarah. I looked up at my boss. This is a lie. He sighed. I figured. But corporate takes this stuff seriously. There's going to be an investigation. My fists clenched. That vindictive *TCH actually went there. I nodded slowly. I understand. I left the office fuming. This was war. And if Sarah wanted to play dirty, she was about to learn I played dirtier. Sarah thought she could ruin me. Thought she could drag me down with her. But she forgot one thing: I wasn't the same fool she married. The moment I walked out of my boss's office, I knew exactly what I had to do. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. I was about to bury her. First, I made a call. Hey, Mark, you still got that PI contact? Mark, my old friend from college, worked in cybersecurity. He chuckled. Damn, man. Didn't think you'd ever need him. You finally getting payback? I smirked. Oh, you have no idea. 30 minutes later, I was sitting across from James Carter, one of the best private investigators in the business. The guy was ex-FBI, built like a brick wall, and had a way of uncovering secrets people thought were buried forever. I slid a folder across the table. I want everything on Sarah. Bank records, hidden accounts, social media, texts. If she so much as bought a coffee she didn't want me to know about, I want it. James flipped through the documents and nodded. Give me 48 hours. Perfect. Next, I called Emily. She answered on the first ring. Tell me you've got more. I grinned. Oh, I've got plenty. Emily was furious. After seeing the security footage, she kicked Jason out and called her lawyer. But now? Now she wanted revenge. I want to make them suffer, she said coldly. I chuckled. Then you'll love what's coming next. We agreed to meet the next day. I wasn't just going to win. I was going to destroy them. That night, I got another text. From an unknown number. You're making a mistake. I smirked. Sarah. I typed back. No, sweetheart. I'm just getting started. She didn't respond. I hoped she was sweating. She should be. The next morning, James called me. Got something for you. Meet me at my office. I got there in record time. James handed me a thick folder. What was inside? Absolute gold. Sarah had been hiding money. Turns out, while she was draining my accounts, she was secretly stashing cash in a hidden savings account, likely planning to run once she bled me dry. Oh, but it got better. James also found texts between her and Jason. And not just any texts. Conversations about setting me up. Sarah, he's an idiot. I just need a few more months, then I'll have enough. Jason, you sure he won't catch on? Sarah, please. He still thinks I actually loved him. I stared at the words, my blood boiling. She never loved me. She was using me from the start. I took a deep breath and smiled. This is perfect. It was time to end this. That evening, I met Emily at a downtown cafe. I slid the folder across the table. She opened it. Her eyes widened. That be *TCH? I smirked. Told you you'd love it. Emily's husband, Jason, was a successful businessman. Rich. And she had been ready to divorce him for a while, but she needed solid proof of infidelity. Yeah? She had it. And she was going to take him for everything. Oh, this is going to be fun, she said, a dangerous gleam in her eye. We sat there, plotting. Sarah and Jason thought they could play us. They had no idea they were the ones being played. The next morning, I walked into my boss's office. The corporate investigation was still ongoing, but I had something they didn't expect. Receipts. I placed a stack of documents on his desk. Here's proof the accusations against me are false. Sarah's fake claims? Completely debunked. The HR rep frowned. Where did you get this? I smiled. Let's just say I have my ways. 2 hours later, my boss called me back. You're in the clear. Sarah's little stunt had failed. And now? It was time for my move. That night, I sent Sarah a text. Meet me at the house. 9 p.m. Final offer. She replied instantly. Sarah, fine. I could feel her desperation through the screen. She thought she could talk her way out. Not this time. 9 p.m. Sarah showed up looking exhausted. She had bags under her eyes, her makeup smudged. Good. She sat across from me at the dining table. What do you want? She asked, voice flat. I slid a document toward her. You're going to sign this. She picked it up, scanning the page. Her face went pale. A full legal settlement. No alimony. No assets. No claim to anything. Just freedom. For me. For her? Nothing. She laughed bitterly. You actually think I'll sign this? I smirked. You will. Because if you don't, I'll make sure you regret it. She sneered. Oh yeah? How? I leaned in. I know about the hidden account. Her breath hitched. I know about the texts. Her fingers trembled. And if you don't sign, I'll make sure the IRS, the police, and every lawyer in the city knows exactly what you've been up to. Silence. Then, for the first time, real fear flashed in her eyes. She swallowed hard. Her hands shook as she picked up the pen. And with a single signature, Sarah was out of my life. Forever. As she left, she turned back one last time. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. She just walked out. And I never looked back. I poured myself a drink. Sat on my couch. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Sarah was gone. Her bags were packed, her car screeched out of the driveway, and just like that, the nightmare was over. I stood in the doorway watching the taillights disappear into the night. No screaming. No fake tears. Just silence. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something I had forgotten existed. Peace. The next morning, I woke up with a clear head. No tension in my shoulders. No sinking feeling in my gut. Just freedom. I went for a run, something I hadn't done in years. The cold morning air burned my lungs, but it felt good. Refreshing. By the time I got back, my phone was blowing up. I smirked. It was happening. Jason was crashing. Emily had gone nuclear. She filed for divorce immediately and froze their shared assets. His bank accounts? Locked down. His credit cards? Declined. And that wasn't even the worst part. She had leaked everything. Screenshots of his messages with Sarah, the security footage, even proof of the money Sarah had been hiding, all of it. It spread like wildfire. Their friends, family, colleagues, everyone knew. By noon, Jason had lost half his business clients. By evening, his own employees were calling him a disgrace. And Sarah? Oh, she wasn't safe either. I got a message from an unknown number. Sarah, you ruined me. I laughed. Me, no, sweetheart. You ruined yourself. Blocked. A week passed. The divorce papers were processed. I made sure everything was airtight. Sarah walked away with nothing. No house. No savings. No backup plan. She tried calling mutual friends for help. But guess what? They all knew what she did. No one wanted to help a snake. She was officially alone. Emily and I met up one last time. She raised a glass. To freedom. I smirked and clinked my glass against hers. To revenge. We both drank. Feels good, doesn't it? She asked. I nodded. Damn right it does. She tilted her head, watching me. So, what now? I shrugged. I start over. Fresh. No dead weight. She smiled. Good choice. We finished our drinks, both of us knowing this was the end. For Sarah. For Jason. For everything they thought they could get away with. That night, I stood on my porch, staring at the sky. For so long, I had been trapped. Lied to. Used. But now? Now I was free. I smiled. I was finally alive again.